Russia will not lose this conflict. This conflict has been going on for over 3 years. I have been living inside of Russia during the majority of this conflict. And a lot of people say, hey, don't do politics. Stick to your personal life. Guys, you guys forget I am married to a Russian woman. I have a Russian son. I live in Russia. Also, the country that's trying to broker a peace deal is also my mother country, the United States. And to a lot of people, that just seems like politics. But for some of us, this is real life. I am affected by everything that goes on because of this conflict. I am affected by all of the sanctions that they've put on Russia, by all the shortages that existed in Russia, by all the prices that go up in Russia. I am affected by the conflict itself. We've been droned even in my oblast. So guys, this is not politics, this is real life. Today we're going to be covering another peace deal agreement. And yes, I know there's been other peace deal agreements and they've failed. But what I want you to understand is that each one that's failed has only made Russia stronger. Why? Because it gets Ukraine closer to an unconditional surrender, which is what the United States and NATO is trying to avoid. Let's go ahead and look at what the President of the United States has said, the President of Ukraine has said, and the President of the Russian Federation. What have they said in this most recent peace deal agreement? First, let's listen to the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
Who?
President Zelenskyy, about your plan. Are you going to meet with them?
I've spoken with their people. We have a plan. It's horrible what's happening. It's a war that should have never happened. It would have never happened if I was president, and it's a shame. And I thought they should have acted quicker. But it's a cold winter, and a lot of the you talk about utilities, but a lot of the big energy producing plants have been under attack, to put it mildly, to put it nicely. We have a way of getting peace, or we think we have a way of getting peace. He's going to have to approve it.
President Zelenskyy said today that his country would risk either giving up a partner or giving up its dignity. There's been criticism that this deal...
You mean he doesn't like it?
It's unclear. He was sort of...
Well, he'll have to like it, and if he doesn't like it, then, they should just keep fighting, I guess,
The suggestion that you made, though, was that if he doesn't accept it, that the U.S. would pull back its support for Ukraine.
Well, at some point he's going to have to accept something. He hasn't accepted. You remember right in the Oval Office not so long ago, I said, you don't have the cards. Don't forget, I inherited this war. This war never would have happened. I inherited this war. And I thought he should have made a deal a year ago, 2 years ago. The ultimate deal would have been if it never started. That would have been the good deal. That could have been done too if you had the right president, but you didn't have the right president.
Now, something that Donald always repeats, Mr. President always repeats, is that this war should have never started. This war should have never started if I was president. In my opinion, there was nothing that was going to stop this war. Why? Because it's really, really well known now that NATO was going to arm Ukraine with or without Donald J. Trump, the President of the United States right now. The conflict started in 2022, and this article from 2022, later in the year, in December, it says former German Chancellor Merkel admits Minsk agreement was merely to buy time for Ukraine's arms to build up. Okay, according to the former German Chancellor Angela Merkel, the Minsk agreement served to buy time to rearm Ukraine. The 2014 Minsk agreement was an attempt to give Ukraine time, Merkel told the weekly Die Zeit. It also used this time to become stronger, as you can see today. So they didn't hide this, guys. They didn't hide this. And by the way, Angela Merkel was chancellor for longer than the Austrian painter was. All right, so people talk about dictatorships. Again, this is crazy talk. But Angela Merkel went on a rampage, giving interviews, letting people know that they were trying to arm Ukraine. And as you can see, Donald J. Trump says this would have never started if I was president, but this was something that started in 2014. Now, Donald Trump keeps saying that Ukraine needs to accept this because they don't have the cards, and he's right. He mentioned this in the Oval Office. If you are the weak side of this problem, this conflict, the longer it goes, the more territory you lose, the more people you lose, the more infrastructure you're going to lose, and you might just lose everything. So this is something that the United States cannot accept. The United States has already invested so much into Ukraine, and they will possibly own the second half of Ukraine. When this conflict is over, it's going to be split diplomatically into two. It's going to be the United States and Russia. But if the Ukrainian government has an unconditional surrender, well, guess what? There won't be a split, and Russia gets to decide what exactly goes on. So Donald Trump is basically pushing the Ukrainian president on, saying, you need to accept these 28 agreements that we have. You have to accept them, because guess what? You are going to lose. Now, even if this conflict started, we all know that when this conflict was in its infancy, this guy right here, this guy, Boris Johnson, goes to Ukraine. Now, this is the German chancellor talking, and now this guy, the leader, I think he was a prime minister of England, he went over and said, Ukraine, you have to keep fighting. Ukraine, you cannot stop fighting. You must continue. And so it looks like the perfect storm happened from the very beginning. All of these early peace agreements were denied. Why? Because of the West. The West continued to say, keep going, keep going. They get the little stick and they keep pushing Ukraine into the conflict. Now, what do I think is unique about this peace agreement is that we are so far along in the conflict that Ukraine is actually weaker than ever. Of course, the longer this goes on, the weaker Ukraine gets. After Donald Trump said what he said in the Oval Office, the president of Ukraine went on to talk. He gave a pretty long speech. This is going to be a condensed version, but it's going to give you the subtitles there. You can read them. We'll go over some key points, but he does talk for a long time, but in my opinion, doesn't say much.
Один з найважчих моментів нашої історії. Зараз тиск на Україну один з найважчих. Зараз Україна може опинитися перед дуже складним вибором. Або втрата гідності, або ризик втрати ключового партнера. Або складні 28 пунктів, або вкрай важка зима. Найважча та подальші ризики. Національний український інтерес має бути врахований. Ми не робимо гучних заяв, ми будемо спокійно працювати з Америкою та усіма партнерами. Буде...
Now I have to stop it there because it's fascinating to me how the United States and NATO has gotten away with openly arming them, openly providing money to them, how openly Ukraine has spoken, our partners, our partners, our partners, and how calm Russia has been. Because if this was China or the United States, these other world superpowers, you would have seen nukes flying already. But Russia has been playing it so calmly. You know, they have been taking the high road over and over and over again and still fighting an armed Ukraine since 2014 and still keeping their cool. It's a fascinating thing. But you can see how Zelenskyy is openly saying our partners, our partners, our partners. Either we agree with this or we lose our partners. Let's continue.
Буде конструктивний пошук рішень з нашим головним партнером. Я буду наводити аргументи, я буду переконувати, пропонувати альтернативи, але точно ми не дамо ворогу приводів сказати, що це Україна не хоче миру, що це вона зриває процес і це Україна не готова до дипломатії. Але і Європа, і весь світ мають розуміти і іншу правду, що українці перш за все люди. І ми майже 4 роки повномасштабного вторгнення стримуємо одну з найбільших армій світу. І ми тримаємо лінію фронту у кілька тисяч кілометрів. І наш народ щоночі переживає обстріли, ракетні атаки, удари балістики, удари шахедів. І наші люди щодня втрачають когось із своїх близьких. І наші люди.
You know, that is something that is true. The front line is massive. And Ukraine was the second largest military in Europe. Ukraine used to be the largest country all inside of Europe. And now it's moved down to 3 or 4 even after this conflict. But Ukraine, again, has never hidden the fact that it's been armed. It's had mercenaries in the tens of thousands from the West. And those are the ones that are reported, of course. So the way he's talking is a little bit strange to me. And so they tell him, here's the peace deal agreement, but he has to go and just read the list of what Ukraine has been doing. You know, you're not in a position, you're not in the winning position, you're not even in the position to broker your own deal. That says a lot. If you are the Ukrainian president, you're not even in control of what's going to happen in this peace deal agreement. So it's always a little bit strange to me to see what he's saying and listen to what he's saying. It makes no sense. You are not the one who is going to sign those peace deal agreements. It's going to be another country, the United States and Russia. He has to understand that his country was used, and let's continue to see what he's going to say. He's delirious.
Люди дуже хочуть, аби ця війна закінчилась. Ми, звісно, сталеві, але будь-який, навіть найміцніший метал може не витримати. І зараз єдність також потрібна нам, як ніколи, аби у нашому домі був достойний мир. Я звертаюсь зараз до всіх українців. Наші люди, громадяни, політики, всі. Треба зібратись, прийти в себе, припинити срач, припинити політичні ігрища. Держава має працювати, парламент воюючої країни має працювати об'єднано, уряд воюючої країни має працювати ефективно. І всі ми разом маємо не забувати і не плутати, хто саме є сьогодні ворогом України. Я не зрадив Україну тоді, я точно відчував за своїми плечима підтримку кожного з вас, кожного українця, українки, кожного солдата, кожного волонтера, кожного медика, дипломата, журналіста, всього нашого народу. Ми не зрадили Україну тоді, ми не зробимо цього зараз. І я точно знаю, що у цей справді один з найважчих моментів нашої історії. Я не один. Наступний тиждень буде дуже непростим, насиченим на події.
I honestly cannot listen to all of it. I'll leave the link down below, but he's an actor, guys. The guy is an actor. That was his original job. So he's saying a lot of nothing. Okay, what he should be saying is, hey, guess what? We've never been on the offensive, a true offensive. We've been on the defensive this entire time. We've been armed since 2014. We were used by NATO, and a lot of our citizens have died. And so this peace deal agreement, however the United States wrote it, because guess what? We have no control. We have to come to an agreement with the Russian Federation and seek for peace. A smart president would say that. But he goes on for 10, 20 minutes and speaks a whole lot of nothing. Again, remember, his job was an actor. Now it's time to listen to the president of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin. His conversation was a lot shorter, condensed, and let's see what he says.
У нас этот текст есть. Мы получили его по имеющимся каналам взаимодействия с американской администрацией. Полагаю, что и он может быть положен в основу окончательного мирного урегулирования. Но предметно с нами этот текст не обсуждается. И могу предположить, почему. Причина, полагаю, та же самая. Администрации США не удается до сих пор заручиться согласием украинской стороны. Украина против. Можем начинать. Если в Киеве не хотят обсуждать предложение президента Трампа и отказываются от этого, то и они, и европейские поджигатели войны должны понимать, что события, которые произошли в Купянске, будут неизбежно повторяться и на других ключевых участках фронта. Может быть, не так быстро, как нам бы того хотелось, но неизбежно это будет повторяться. И в целом нас это устраивает, поскольку ведет к достижению целей СВО вооруженным путем в ходе вооруженной борьбы. Но мы, как я многократно уже говорил ранее, готовы и к мирным переговорам, к решению проблем мирным путем. Однако это требует, конечно, предметного обсуждения. всех деталей предлагаемого плана. Мы к этому готовы.
Just like the President of the United States, the President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, gives a direct reply. Okay, these were the three key players. The President of the Russian Federation essentially says, listen, we've already spoke with the United States. We had an agreement, and we're going to work with these agreements that we've already made. And he understands that there's been a new agreement proposed by the United States, but he does not shy away from working with the United States to find peace. But towards the end, he also mentions that, by the way, everything is going good for us in this conflict. We are determined to finish this conflict however we need to. He is confident in his country's troops. He is confident in his country's strategic positioning in this conflict, right? Because they are the A side. They've always been the A side. They've always gained territory. They've always won major battles. The biggest battles of this conflict, Russia has won. Okay, major battles meaning where, unfortunately, high amount of casualties on both sides, but the winning side was always Russia. So we've seen these three key players. We've seen what they've said. This is my opinion. I believe that the West is going to try to make it seem like Donald J. Trump is betraying NATO, betraying the West by making a deal with the Russian Federation. But this is not the truth. They are trying to seek peace. Why? Because there is a high amount of casualties going on here, but the world doesn't need to be sucked into a World War III. It is written on the walls. Ukraine is going to lose, and America cannot afford to have an unconditional surrender by the Ukrainians. They cannot. A total loss in Ukraine would be a catastrophic failure for the United States. As we know, over and over again, Ukraine has said, our partners, our partners, our partners, the United States, the United States. The United States is an open partner of the Ukrainians. And so if they lose this conflict in an unconditional surrender, then the United States loses as well. The longer this conflict goes, the more desperate the United States is going to get to make peace. This is why every time Donald J. Trump has sought peace with Russia, it's gotten more and more drastic. It's been like, you have to accept, you should accept, now you need to accept. So they're telling Ukraine, you need to accept, or else you're just going to continue this war. And you know, behind closed doors, the United States government is biting their nails because they need this to end in a true peace between Russia and Ukraine. Again, unconditional surrender is a loss for NATO, and they cannot have this. I told you guys there was three key players, but in reality there's only two. Ukraine has always been the puppet, has always been the people that have been used, and this is something that they have to come to understand. You know, it doesn't matter who you support. It is unfortunate that this proxy war has used such a big population in Eastern Europe, but it is what it is. We're here now, and this peace agreement is probably going to be the last one that Russia comes to this nice. They've been playing nice, guys. I think that the Russians have again taken the high road over and over again, but this might be the final straw for them. I'm curious to know what you think. This was my short analysis or long analysis, however you want to see it, because I know other people cover this professionally in their channels, but they don't live in Russia. They are not affected by this. I live here. This conflict affects me directly. My family lives here. So I wanted to give you guys the updated stories. You guys have probably seen these people's videos already, but you haven't seen them together, and you haven't seen my opinion on it. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later on a live where I'm going to be talking about this topic again with you guys, the viewers.